Hey, what's up, guys? Chad Hermansen here with Mental Edge Training Coach. Today, I'm going to be chatting with Rob Shabansky. Rob is a former opponent of mine here in Las Vegas, Nevada. He went to Bishop Gorman, so we were big rivals going through high school. He went to the University of Arizona to play his college ball and also went on to play pro ball for a few years and is now the current head coach at Gateway Community College in Arizona. So we're going to talk about Rob, talk about his experiences, talk about the mental game, what he does as a coach. So enjoy this conversation with Rob Shabansky. Hey, Rob, what's going on, man?
Not much, Chad. How you doing?
I'm doing good. So we briefly spoke for a few seconds about how you're trying to. We're in the second week. How many weeks are you into school right now, being the head coach at Gateway?
So this is essentially this will be the end of our second full week. So going into it, classes just started. Obviously, we're in a completely different mode than what we've been in. We have very limited classes on campus right now, and it's really like our nursing. So on Mondays, I get to work our nursing help desk, which I know nothing about the nursing program, so it makes a lot of sense. But all of our kids and everybody who's in regular classes, it's all online. Some of them are specific times and days. Other ones are just on their own time. So for new to college, some people, it's I'm trying to keep my thumb on a lot of guys right now.
Yeah, are you finding it with because you're at a 2-year school, a junior college? Are you finding that the incoming freshmen are having a bit harder time than, say, the now sophomores?
Yeah, absolutely. Really, it just starts with the simplest things. Where do I get my books? How do I do this? What is Canvas? And we really try and take them through an orientation all together and show them kind of the resources, where their stuff's at, where they need to go. But then they'll even get confused on that because there's a couple different systems they have to run while they're here. Like Canvas is what they use to do all their homework and communicate with their teachers. Then they have their student center, which shows them all of like their emails, their class schedules, what they owe, just kind of those things. But what they don't realize when they log in at first, it only shows your week. And so kids will call immediately, Coach, I'm only in 2 classes. Well, no, that's just for this week. Just click on my class schedule. It will show you all your classes. So that one I probably answer more than any other question, without a doubt.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I know I got 4 kids. They're all home right now. My oldest just moved back in. She's a sophomore at the junior college here, and she has all online classes. They seem to be managing. The first week was, let's just kind of see how this works. We're now almost done with the second week, and things seem to be going a little bit smoother. But man, they're getting into a routine, right? They kind of each have their own desk and doing their thing. And I know some kids are also able to go. I think Bishop Gorman, who was a private school, they're able to go do and have the choice to go to school or not at this time. So, yeah, it's just a lot of adjustments for folks, and we're still trying to figure it out. What's going on? So at the time of this recording, September just started. Are you guys in Arizona open? Is it pretty open out there? Or is it still is it restricted?
As far as day-to-day life goes, it's pretty open. There's businesses more and more businesses are starting to open up. Obviously, we have a pretty famous fight with gyms and the governor down here right now, trying to get those open back up. And some of them have, some of them haven't. But for the most part, it's semi-normal. You can go into a restaurant, you can go sit down and eat, you can do those things now. I personally haven't done that yet. I'm still going to pick everything up if I go get something. But there's still a ton of tournaments going on down here. Baseball's going, soccer's going. I know softball's starting to do some stuff. That part of it, on some of the non-collegial side. I drive by Pinnacle High School every day. Football's practicing. They're getting ready to start their season in October for high school. And it's very different. Obviously, Maricopa County is a big place, but a lot of the Scottsdale school districts, it's still online classes. And you drive all the way out to Queen Creek, they threw everybody back in class. So we have wide varying decisions that are being made no matter where you go. So it just depends on where you're at.
Yeah, it's a little frustrating out here in Nevada and Las Vegas. We have a governor that wants to just kind of keep everything shut, is very limited on what we're able to do. I think he's also we already know for sure we have 90 days of online school. That's already kind of set in stone. But football has been pushed back like to winter. Everything's been kind of pushed back. The baseball season is going to not start, I think, till April. So it's only going to be about 6 weeks. So it's going to be a rough ride for some kids. But I know that there's some scout ball going on, fall stuff. We're not even sure if we're allowed parents to show up. That can show up at games here.
Yeah.
So it's pretty frustrating. And I know it's frustrating for college coaches that are trying to get out there, recruit. Are you at the junior college level able to do anything right now? Because I know Division I and NCAA is not.
Yeah, we actually are. This summer was the first time we've ever had a quote unquote dead period. We've never had that before in junior college. And they lifted it, right in the middle of June or so. We can go out and start watching some kids, and no restrictions have been put on us since then. And yeah, I mean, there's a tournament going on this weekend. I think there's two next weekend. There's a high school fall league going on right now. I mean, and some of them are being played on high school campuses. And so it's definitely different. Like I said, it's frustrating. It's frustrating for us right now. We can't practice. We can't do anything until January. But we're going out to recruit and trying to find some things. And yet we don't even know what we truly have right now, for us. And so it's a waiting game. And I think the biggest thing for me is I don't have a routine right now. And for so long, I've been used to just being in an office for about 3 to 4 hours a day and then head out to the field. And now I'm stuck, staring at my laptop for, 8 to 10 hours a day. So I think at the end of this, I'm definitely going to need some new glasses so I can see better. But I was on a 3.5 hour conference meeting the other day. And when I got off, I had a headache. Just staring at the screen. I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
I gotta look at something else. I gotta get away. I gotta go walk. I gotta do something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely kind of screwed up some routines from a lot of people. So I want to kind of dive into, we're going to get back into your playing career since we're kind of talking about Gateway. So tell us about Gateway, because at the junior college level, as an example, here in Las Vegas, we have CSN for baseball players to go play at. That athletic department is expanding. We're getting more sports in there. But you're out in the Phoenix area where there's a lot more options. Tell us about the options out in Arizona.
Yeah, a ton more. When I first came here, that kind of shocked me how many junior colleges are out here. But in Arizona alone, we have 17 junior colleges that have some form of sports. We have 14 with baseball. We have actually 8 inside of Maricopa County that have baseball and 6 outside of Maricopa County. So, your Yavapais and your Central Arizonas, Eastern Arizonas, Arizona Western, Cochise, Pima, down in Tucson, we all have baseball. So, and for years, we were very limited on 4-year schools. It was almost the exact opposite, where we had 3 Division I schools, 3 4-year schools that had baseball, because Grand Canyon was Division II for a little while. But we had 3 Division I schools, and that was it. Recently, within the last 5 years, we now have 5 NAIA schools that have baseball programs. So there's a lot of options here, a lot of colleges, and just kind of depending on what you're looking for, probably something can fit your need, to be quite honest. And Arizona, and the Southwest and anywhere that's warm, kids want to come play sports here. You don't have to worry about weather. I mean, the worst part about the weather is it's too hot.
Yeah.
I think, I think today is going to be like 113 degrees.
Sounds amazing.
Right. And I'd rather do that than be in, snow and 40 degrees somewhere in wind and trying to get loose. Like,
right.
I'd rather sweat than be shivering.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's when you go up, start going up north a little bit. You've been at 105 plus, you're kind of used to that summer heat, but then you get up and you get into this, maybe the winter, and you go to a showcase. I don't know, let's say in Colorado, or something right. Where it's pretty cold and chilly. You're like, I can handle this for 2, 3, 4 days, and then I can't wait to get out of here.
Right. Right. And me, growing up in Las Vegas, I've been in Colorado in some of those areas when it's snow and ice. Not a good driver on it.
Yeah, no, it's just not baseball weather, right? Yeah,
Right.
no doubt. So, and also too, I don't think people realize that there's actually two separate divisions,
Yeah.
junior college 1 and 2. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we have, the NJCAA is just like the NCAA. So we have divisions 1, 2, and 3. So in Arizona alone, we have divisions 1 and 2. So it's a different dynamic for sure. I really like the dynamic of it between 1 and 2 because at the end of the year, we have a chance to send 2 teams to 2 different World Series, and bring a lot of recognition back to Arizona itself. So our NJCAA Division Ones are basically all the non-Maricopa schools, with the exception of South Mountain Community College. So you can declare if you want to play Division One or Division Two. The rest of us in Maricopa County are all Division Two. Really, kind of the main difference is we don't have dorms, and we can't scholarship out-of-state students, and we can't offer them room and board. So those. Now the out-of-state thing, that's a Maricopa County thing. The national office or national rule says we could scholarship an out-of-state kid, but it's just Maricopa County that says you can only scholarship Arizona residents, which even when I first got into this job, at first it was only Maricopa County residents. Okay. So it was a huge difference for us to go to all Arizona, so we can scholarship a kid from Tucson or Yuma or wherever they may be from, to give them a chance and pay for some of their education.
Okay. And is it, are you finding, because from a recruiting standpoint, Gateway is certainly a little bit different, where you actually have your facilities of on-school campus and then your baseball field away. You play at the old Gene Autry Angels Stadium spring training facility. Yep. What is that like when you're talking to a recruit? Is that a factor for you guys at all?
You know what? 10 years ago, yes, it was. It was a huge factor and bad in a negative way. Mm-hmm. We were the only school, really in Arizona that didn't have a facility on campus. And so it was a really foreign idea for kids to come to our program, come to school on our campus, which our campus is located kind of down by the airport. We're about 10 minutes from Arizona State University. And then drive another 15 minutes to go to practice or jump in a van and then drive home. And then once U of A and ASU moved their facilities off campus, that idea wasn't so foreign. And to be completely honest, I really enjoy it being off campus, which is as weird as it sounds, but I had a little bit of that growing up with, going to Bishop Gorman, and our field was off campus. So it wasn't a completely foreign idea to me. But in reality, we drive 15 minutes, get to Gene Autry, City of Mesa, which does an outstanding job. They do all of our field work for us. They drag it, they cut the grass, they do the mounds, they do the batter's boxes, they do everything for us. All we have to do is put our stuff out and take it off, and then we'll drive back. So, I'd rather do that than do an hour's worth of field work. Right. So to me, it's well worth it. Yeah. So, to get out there and have someone do it for us, and we don't have to do it after every practice, after every game. Really what these guys don't understand when they're here is like they're being treated like, 4-year college programs, or, Power 5 programs for sure, and pro ball and things like that, because everyone's doing something for them, Yeah. And so, really just the idea of being off campus, to me, from a mentality standpoint, is a huge separator. Because once we leave campus, now we're just doing baseball. There's no distraction. For me, I'm our athletic director. How I'm the athletic director, I have no idea. And the head baseball coach. So once I get out there, my phone goes in my bag. No one can drag me into a meeting. And for my mental clarity too, like it's a really good separator.
That's interesting. Yeah, no, that's pretty cool because you have, I know, again, an example, it's so local CSN. I know there's players all over the field that have to, usually coaches dragging the field, but all the pitchers, they're working that mound. Everyone's kind of doing their thing. So that's actually a really good point. And just another example of it's how you view it, right? It's your attitude towards it and how you're going to look at it rather than, oh man, I gotta drive 15 minutes every day to the field, where you can get that, maybe you need that 15-minute drive to just get your mindset ready to practice, or, things like that, or take those phone calls on the way to practice where you can get some work done. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I'm, and I don't live very close to our campus either. You know, I probably live 35, 40 minutes away. And to me, and when I first started this job, I only lived about 10 minutes away from campus. And I will say one thing, if we had a bad game or stuff like this, especially when I was a young coach, I put my stuff down, do whatever I need to do in the office, drive home. Well, 10 minutes later, I'm walking in the door. I still might be frustrated. Now with a 35, 40-minute drive, which everyone thinks I'm crazy, driving home, like I'm able to make calls. I'm able to kind of just decompress, relax a little bit. And when I'm home, I'm home.
Yeah.
So for me, that was something I noticed right when I first moved. I was like, at first I was like, man, this is kind of a long drive. I'll get through it, whatever. And then I just started to realize like, hey, like this is my time to kind of, if I need to think about something or analyze something or make some phone calls or whatever, I can decompress. And then by the time I'm home and then that's it. So
yeah,
I enjoy it. I enjoy both perspectives. And like you said, I mean, if I know how the facility is a CSN, like you could be walking from class you could have just found out you bombed a test or something. You change and you're running out to the field and your thoughts and focus might still be on that. And I'm not saying 15 minutes cures all, but if you're able to use that time productively, I think it can help, to be more productive once you get to practice or once you're getting to where you need to go.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And so how long have you been coaching at Gateway now?
So this will be the start of my 16th year.
Wow.
So I was an assistant coach the first 2.5, and then I took over, halfway through that third year, and I've been here ever since. Which surprisingly, the funny thing is I never wanted to be a head coach ever. Didn't want to do it. And I'll never forget the process of it because I knew our head coach at the time, Victor Solis, who's now the head coach of Paradise Valley. He's been there for a while. He told me he was applying for that job at Paradise Valley and thought he was going to get it. My whole plan was I was just going to go with him because where Paradise Valley is about 10 minutes from my house now. So I was like, perfect.
Right.
And at the time, as an assistant coach in Maricopa County, you don't make any money. I mean, you really don't. You can't make a living off it. So I was selling mortgages. Actually really liked it. Didn't have to be in an office, which was good for me. And right during that time, the housing market crashed and I was making no money. But I remember our athletic director at the time, he asked me at a game, before a game one day, he's like, do you want to be a head coach? And I go, no. And he's like, are you serious? I'm like, I'm dead serious. Yeah. And he's like, why not? I'm like, I don't want to have to deal with travel. I don't have to deal with teachers. I don't have to deal with grades. I don't have to deal with budget. I'm here for baseball. That's it. Okay. And he's like, okay. And then, so we found out, Victor got the job at Paradise Valley. And so he calls me. He's like, hey, you got the job. Will you take over? And I said, I'm like, absolutely. I'll take over for the rest of the year. I go, but just FYI, my full plan is I'm leaving after the year. And he's like, are you sure? I go, look, I'll let you know in April. I said, I'll let you know in April. And then again, I was like, I'm not getting a paycheck, from mortgages right now. I was like, I guess I'll stay on. I guess I'll stay on. I've been here ever since. And
you were saying I'm going to go do full mortgages full time. Was that the plan originally?
Yeah, because I moved here. Yeah, I moved here, and had a job, and like I said, I was doing mortgages. I really enjoyed it. I thought, for the most part, didn't have to be tied down into an office. I could kind of float from here to there and, do things I wanted to do still. And I really enjoyed being an assistant coach. I didn't have any plans on being a head coach. I liked that factor of just coaching baseball. And like I said, my full-time plan was I'll keep doing mortgages. I'll go over to Paradise Valley with Vic, and I'll be his assistant coach over there too. Because Vic and I have a long relationship. He was one of my coaches when I was at University of Arizona. So he kind of got me wrapped up or tied up into this thing, and basically 15 years later, I'm still here.
And now you're the AD.
Yeah, and somehow I'm the AD.
Yeah, it's funny how life works out sometimes, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because, once I was done with baseball or playing baseball, I was like, I'm done with it. I'm good. I'll do some lessons here and there. Never in a million years did I ever think that I would get into being my job, for sure.
Mm-hmm. That's great though. So it's another great example of life can kind of just take you down some roads maybe you don't expect. Let's do some rewinding. Let's go all the way back
Okay.
to kind of where you and I met is when we were opponents facing each other. You're at Bishop Gorman at one of the top schools in the state, and we started to kind of have some battles, I guess you could say.
Absolutely.
Being at Green Valley and state championships, things like that. Any stories or anything that you remember about our times together way back in the day?
Yeah, I can remember quite a few. But one, I think I may as a player, and I don't know, and I'm kind of just throwing it out there, out to the universe right now, and I could just be, making this up. I may have the most career losses in state championship games in Nevada state history. Because my first 2 years I went to Bonanza High School, and we're in the state championship. My freshman year, I actually came in relief in the state championship game and got pulled. We lost to Carson City with who Nate Yeske pitched for, who's now the pitch coach at University of Arizona. And that was like the last time a North team had won the state title for like 20 plus or 30 years almost at that point in time. And then my next year, we get back to the state championship and we lose to Green Valley. And then my junior year, I transfer over to Bishop Gorman. And I'll never forget, we went to obviously Green Valley was probably only 2-3 years old at the time, and became really, really good. I mean, I remember Tom LaRosa, who was a big time arm. I remember seeing 90 for the first time. Like, that was huge.
Yeah.
I was like, this guy's really good. And some of the other guys you guys had there, Chad Stevenson behind the plate, and obviously yourself and Kevin Eberwine and, Nick Day, and his brother Chris, and all, really, really good teams. And Bishop Gorman, we were really good too. And I remember the zone tournament, playing against you guys, and, we ended up winning a tight game, and we both go to state, and we get into the state championship, and you guys have to beat us twice. And I hadn't pitched since I pitched against you guys in zone. So I remember starting game one. I think I got into about 3 innings and might have given up 10 or 12 runs at that point in time. I remember coming off, and I told Coach Chambers, Tim Chambers at the time, I was like, hey, just pull me right now, and I'll start game 2. And he's like, okay. And so did it. We lose. I forget, it was like 20 something to 1 or some crazy score. And so I start game 2, and it was pretty tight for about 4 innings. And I'm going to throw Joe Lombardo under the bus here a little bit. Makes his only error of the season, if I remember correctly, like in the 4th, and we were winning like 3-1, 3-2 at the time. And then the floodgates opened. I don't think I got another out. And we lost, I don't know, 20 something to 4 or some craziness. So, and you guys win the state championship. And I will say that was tough. That was tough to give up for almost 50 runs in a state championship. And then I remember going into our senior years. I think our senior years was maybe the most anticipated. To come back. We had got Jeff Martin, who transferred in for us, who obviously was a really, really good arm. I think played with you, got drafted with you, or no, he moved over to Pittsburgh later. He got drafted by the Royals in the 8th round out of high school. And Justin Kay, who got drafted by the Mariners. And then myself. And then we had some other guys too that pitched, like Richie Stevens, who was pretty good. And then we got into the zone tournament and we got knocked out. And so it was my only time, my senior year of high school, only time I didn't get a chance to go to state tournament and or playing the state championship game. And I felt like it was our best team. But that was a good year. 95 in Las Vegas, baseball wise, was really, really good. I mean, obviously yourself, getting drafted in the 1st round. I believe Kevin Eberwine got drafted that year too. Obviously we had some guys like Jeff Martin and Justin Kay and myself all got drafted. I remember Ryan Clark got drafted too. We had a lot of guys drafted that year. It was really, really competitive. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. It was a good year. Sure.
Yeah. And I think the crazy thing, what's so different then to now, if you look at that, we lived and breathed high school. High school was our thing. We didn't have all the perfect game, prospect wire, USA baseball tournaments, PG, or the, PBR events. We didn't have those things. So we went right from that to Legion and playing 60 games in Legion. and having battles. So I think what people probably didn't realize is not only did we play each other probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 times in the high school season, but then we play another 7, 8, 9, 10 times against each other in summer ball.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of battles. I mean, it was all, I think we all knew each other really well from a playing perspective, and we were all pretty decent friends at the end of it. But a lot of fun during that time. And like I said, it was a blast. And then, like I said, then we had some rare opportunities to play together, with, the Senior Fall Classic at the time when it was going down with LVBA. And then, like we talked about earlier, going to California with Mike Bailly and playing in just a little Connie Mack deal, just throwing it together. I think we won it the one year. So
yeah, no, it's interesting you mentioned that how often we played against each other, and it was kind of what I've noticed with, and I'm pretty sure my guess is anyway that other states like Vegas is a pretty tight knit community in regards to baseball, and we're all friends now. But like when we were out competing back in high school, like we wanted to tear each other's heads off.
absolutely,
right? We were out there competing. We were out there to win and to do whatever we can. You had Tim Chambers, you had Roger Fairless, all these, I want to say egos, but in a way egos of as a head coach at this level, that how competitive it was. Because back then, there's maybe 10 to 15 schools. So you just played each other a lot more.
yeah.
Right. So I know there's a rivalry between not only the school, but then the coach. And then if there was something going on there, then that kind of reflected on the players. And it was just a battle, and you kind of wonder, like, is that lost a little bit nowadays? Do you see that at all?
I think so. I think so because, like you said, we didn't have these club teams and travel teams where we played together a lot. Except I remember, when we got that opportunity to go to California, or we got the opportunity to come to Arizona and play in the Fall Classic, that was like our only time ever playing with each other. And it was very brief. And I remember just kind of like, I remember a little bit like walking on eggshells, like, all right, we kind of get after it when we play each other. Do we like each other, or are we, what is this, So it was very different. I mean, we all talked and did those things, but it was like, we still we represented Bishop Gorman, you represented Green Valley. Nowadays you see these kids and they play on all these club teams. So now I think it's the opposite, where they live and breathe with club teams because they play more games with them. And then you start to see these super club teams, and they start bringing the best players, and they play together. They play with each other more often than they do in high school. So the high school, I feel like, I think it gets competitive when you get to the playoff times and things like that. But regular season, guys are, high-fiving, shaking hands, well, pre-COVID, they were doing that, doing those things, and just super tight-knit, and they're on other teams. And I just remember specifically, it was like, hey, before the game, you don't talk to the other team. That's part of the deal. Like, they're trying to beat you, you're trying to beat them. They're not your friends right now. And we competed. I mean, I'm sure we all exchanged words. I'm sure we didn't like each other at times, but it was all in reference to on the field stuff.
Right.
But nowadays, they're all friends. You don't see that kind of rivalries, and rivalries in a good way. And like you said, with Coach Fairless, who was an amazing coach in Nevada sports history. I mean, the amount of big leaguers he had from Valley High School and Green Valley, and draft picks, and Division I players, and kids. I mean, always had great programs, always had great teams. And then yeah, you throw in a Tim Chambers, who was young and kind of fiery, and then you mix in some of these other coaches that were fiery too. I mean, it was like I said, it's quite a bit different than nowadays. Like I said, because they have the opportunity to play together more than we ever did. That they represent different things a little bit.
Yeah, I still remember. We lost Tim Chambers. Coming up probably close to 2 years now, roughly. I remember a picture, and you may too. Is the Las Vegas Review-Journal, and there was a play at home plate. And I believe that it was a very important part of the game. 7-inning high school game. It was probably around the 6th inning. But there was a play where the player was called out at home plate. Tim Chambers was coaching third base. And he jumped up. So the guy was out, and he jumped up so high. You would think, like, Tim could jump that high, right? And that was the snapshot of Tim Chambers jumping in the air at this significant part of the game, gets kicked out of the game, just goes nuts. That's a vivid image I have of Coach Timmy. And, obviously we miss him and all that stuff. But what was Chambers like for you at Gorman?
Oh, it was definitely a change of pace. That's for sure. He said, so when I was over there, so I was 16, he was 12 years older than me. So he's 28 years old. He'd already been the head coach at Gorman for a couple of years now. So I think he took over at, 26, something like that. And he was fiery, to say the least. I mean, he'd do anything for you. Don't get me wrong. Like, I remember I didn't have a car, and he just happened to live further west of me, and he would pick me up to school just so I can get there on time. Those are things that I remember. But at the same time, he could be the first person to just absolutely just snap on us. I'll never forget it. He used to send us on basically like these 2-mile runs, and we'd have to go to the practice at this park by Bishop Gorman, and we were supposed to run, I forget the streets that we had to run, but coming back up there, and he found out some of us had cut the run. We had cheated the run. So we're like, okay. So he gets over to this park, and we're out in center field, and he gets us down on a knee, and he's acting all calm and cool, kind of like he did. And we're like, all right. And then he has his fungo, and I swear to you, that he took his fungo, and it looked like he threw it over the pitcher's mound from out in center. Like, that's how far it looked. And he just starts screaming at us, and like screaming at us so much, like I didn't even know how to answer something. So like, it was just like, I was so scared. And I'll never forget, one of our school administrators had to drive over to the park because someone at the middle school was about to call the cops because she thought that he was going to like beat us all.
Right. Right.
And so, I'll never forget that. I was like, holy cow, like I better do what he tells me to do, or else like this is going to be a long couple years here.
Yeah.
But I came to expect it, and at the end of it, it made me a little bit tougher than what I thought. He'd be the first person to call you out, that's for sure. He didn't hold back. He told you what he thought. He told you, his feelings on things, and it didn't matter. But at the end of the day, I knew he still loved us and he cared about us. But there was just some days where I was like, holy cow. But he also just always had your back. I mean, he was that guy. Like I said, he's at home plate, jumping up and down, screaming, doing things like that. Like he said, he definitely didn't back down from anything. That's for sure.
Yeah, it seems like you mentioned I got tougher. It seems like that's what high school is kind of for. You're kind of I came into a freshman as a 14-year-old. Kids are 14, 15 years old, and you think you're kind of tough at that point, but you're not, right? And you kind of you start doing things that are hard, and you're like, man, so it kind of tests you, right? And I think that's what a lot of high school coaches do. I know that's what Fairless did.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get Roger on here at some point.
I'd love that.
Yeah. So just to kind of talk about stuff in high school, but yeah, I mean, they would essentially, kind of beat us up, not only physically, but mentally and emotionally. And it's kind of the first time that we, as a high school kid, get that. Maybe we're getting that maybe from a parent at home. A lot of parents, I think these days, are pretty even keel, and they know like that's probably not the best way to do things. Plus, you can get in trouble.
Right.
A lot of different things now. So sometimes coaches have to take that reign, and I think that's what coaches did when we were in high school, and we started to kind of, in a way, see what we're made of and what we can handle. If we're throwing up at practices because it's so hard, and all the running you have to do. So it's interesting. No, did you take any of that, what you learned from Coach Chambers, or even in college? So you went to University of Arizona.
Yep.
I do want to point out that for those that live in the Vegas area, when you went to Bishop Gorman, that was the old Bishop Gorman, not the new Bishop Gorman. So what's the difference there for people that don't know about that?
Well, so the old Bishop Gorman, obviously was on Maryland Parkway, very, very small. We had no facilities on campus. Our football team played at the Silver Bowl. We played at Hadland Park. And for people that are familiar with the Las Vegas area, Hadland Park is not the nicest area. And I got a quick story about that one, which is funny because this is, I think it's hard for kids to imagine this, but I remember when I played at Bonanza, we went to Bishop Gorman to go play, or we went to Hadland Park to go play Bishop Gorman. And our coach told the bus driver we all had to ride home. So the bus driver takes off. Well, there's 3 of us that are left behind. And I'm like, okay, this is not a good spot to be in. So they had a payphone, which is crazy. They had a payphone like right by the field that I had to put my quarter in, call my mom. And I was like, hey, the bus driver left us. You're the only number I know. There's no cell phones. Can you come get me? And she was like, I don't know where Hadland Park is.
Right.
And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, I don't know how to describe it to you either. And there's no GPS. So then I remember having to call my dad at the time. And I was like, hey, we got left. Can you come pick the 3 of us up and get us back home? So, but yeah, Hadland Park is a different area.
Yeah. I mean, it's known for, like, there's some, so it's kind of it's a park, and then across the street there's apartments. I mean, I know for a fact for myself, I heard gunshots at some point. Josh Towers told a story on the show when he was around Oxnard, around his junior college, he would heard gunshots around his spot. But yeah, you're talking about a bad part of Vegas that I know scouts have stories that, I got to go to Hadland Park. So I think sometimes they would try to catch Gorman on the road.
that probably would have been the smart thing. And yeah, there was gunshots out there. I remember they would play adult league out there on Sundays, and so I used to go and drag and line the fields for them on Sundays, and I'd find homeless people in the dugout. And I'm 16 years old, and I'm trying to tell people to get out of the dugout.
Yeah.
Just not a very comforting feeling. But yeah, definitely not one of the nicer areas. Not what you associate Bishop Gorman with now, for sure. But again, it made for some good stories. Got out unscathed. So, but definitely interesting. It's some nostalgia for sure.
Absolutely. So you, after high school, Bishop Gorman, you go to University of Arizona. What was your experience like over there?
And kind of addressing the question with Coach Chambers and what I took from him, especially when I got to college. I mean, one, again, it was a weird situation. I showed up to college about 2 weeks late because I was still playing Legion, and we were in the Western Regional Championship at the time, and so we lost that, and then I had to go to school, and I was 2 weeks late, and I actually roomed with AC Smith, who's a teammate of yours, and I got there, and I was lost immediately. I had no idea, what was going on. Like, it was like, all I knew is I had 8 a.m. Spanish, and I had to be there, and I got into Spanish, didn't have any of my books, and then kind of figured it out, and I kind of got my feet wet, but I made so many mistakes, though, because, back then at U of A, when their field was on campus, there was a tradition that you left McHale Center and you went to the left field corner where the gate was to get into the field, and then you jogged in from left field to the first base dugout, which is our dugout. So I finally got cleared, finally got a physical. I get there, I'm running behind, and I get on the field. Well, I walked all the way from left field to the dugout. Seniors are just destroying me.
Right.
And I'm like so scared. I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. Like, every mistake you can make, I am making 100%. But I think, what Coach Chambers gave me a little bit was some of that mental toughness. And I can take it, that guys wearing on me or making mistakes and kind of learning how to bounce back a little bit. I think physically I could do it. Mentally at times I can do it. But then it was like, my freshman year, I wasn't very good. And I walked in and I thought, getting there, seeing some other freshmen, I compared with them on our team. I was going to pitch a decent amount of innings. I was going to hit a little bit. And then, I remember, my first outing, I was okay. And I remember starting my first collegiate game was against Cal State Dominguez Hills, which is a Division II school. And another freshman started against them on a Tuesday. I was starting Wednesday, and he kind of dominated him. I mean, and I was like, and I remember him telling me, I'll never forget this, like, with your fastball and curveball, you'll dominate him. No big deal. I was like, okay. I went through 3 innings. I think I gave up like 9 hits and like 5 runs. I just got smoked all around the yard. And I was like, man, I started to kind of doubt myself. I was like, Am I good enough to be here? I'm like, I just got beat up by a Division II, school. Um, am I really good enough? And I went back and forth, and I'll never forget, I came in relief at Cal State Fullerton, and bases loaded. It was like the 5th inning. Mark Kotze's coming to the plate. And I remember seeing him play at UNLV the year before, and he was Golden Spikes winner, everybody's All-American, best player in the country. And I was like, first pitch to a hanging breaking ball, and I put my head down. I was like, that's a bomb. And somehow he missed it and popped it up. And I was like, oh, thank goodness.
You got him out.
Yeah. I walked away thinking, yeah, I'm really good now. But I struggled. I went back and forth. I think I had like a 9 ERA. I hit all right. And I went to Cape Cod, that summer. And I think that was really a big turning point for me in my playing career. Because I got up there, I was throwing the ball decently well. Wasn't hitting a lot, but really, I was really majority of pitcher. But I remember my roommate, he came from Cal Berkeley. His name was Keith Evans. And I started talking to him like, hey, man, like I watch you, you're really confident. And I was like, don't take this the wrong way, but you got average stuff. I was like, you're 88 to 90, pretty good breaking ball, pretty good changeup. You're 6'6", but like you dominate. You carve through these lineups, and he's the one that turned me on to the mental game of baseball. And so I read that book that summer, and when I came back, I just had a different mindset, because my freshman year, if a guy got on second base, or even first base for that matter, I felt like just stepping off and throwing the ball into the gap and like saying, just score, go ahead, get it over with. Where I started to kind of change, and I had a different mindset and a different mentality on the mound. And I went from a 9 ERA my freshman year to 3 ERA my sophomore year, in the era of -5 bats. But a lot of it wasn't a physical thing. Physically, I didn't get much, I didn't change much, but the mentality of what I did was a complete 180.
Yeah. So that's where I kind of find that in talking to high school athletes and even into college, they haven't really dabbled yet much with just reading a book, The Mental Game of Baseball, right? And kind of opening up their mindset. And I think it's because of a few things, but I think they're not aware yet of how important it is. So they're kind of just skating along, and they're trying to just get by with their physical ability until the crap kind of hits the fan. And they're like, like you said, I got beat around a little bit. So now I'm doubting myself. Now I'm doubting maybe I don't belong here. If I don't change something or do something, I might not be here very long, right? So you made that decision. Was that your decision to go get that book in this example, or did someone say, hey, maybe you should try this?
Yeah, that was my roommate, Keith, that summer.
Yeah.
He's the one that handed it to me. I never heard about it, and again, I mean, we talked back then, dial-up internet, and it wasn't like you just look up things, and didn't have a cell phone. I can just like, hey, mental baseball books, like, let's find something.
You had to go to a bookstore,
right? You had to learn how to use the library. And then you had to go to the bookstore and know where you wanted to go and what you're trying to find. But yeah, I never had dabbled in it much, and I think from a lot of very good high school players, good ones, great ones, whatever, you don't fail much. You really don't.
Yeah.
And so now when you get to a point when you start failing and it becomes repetitive, I mean, you might fail a little bit in high school, a little here and there, but when you start getting a repetitive failure and you don't have one leg to stand on, and your mind starts spinning, and your mind's going to take you in a negative way, and I don't know if positivity actually gets you out of those situations either. I think about, you got to be a little bit more. I've been, reading a lot on this guy, Trevor Moad, and just read his book and listened to a few podcasts, and how he says it, I think is a great way to term it, is be more neutral, and, and be where you're at, be a little bit analytical, and try and figure out what do you need to do to help solve these problems, because, and I mentioned it, earlier, but when you don't have routine and you got nothing to stand on, well, you're going to get different results every day. And unfortunately, if you can't get to the point where you feel like you can be competitive, you're in a bad spot. You're in a really bad spot, because you're hoping to have a good day instead of, knowing you're going to walk in and do what you need to do.
Do you find that with your freshmen, unless you're teaching it right away about having a routine, whether it's, the routine of simply getting up in the morning, what you're doing in your dorm, or I guess you don't have dorms, but at your apartment, all the way from class, all the way to the field. You guys set that up as a coaching staff, or you kind of just, okay, this is what you should do? Like, how does that work for you guys?
Yeah, so that's a big part for at least what we do in our program. So like every Friday we'll have like a meeting. We'll go into a classroom and we'll do some mental stuff and some concentration grids and stuff like that, and talk about certain things and play some videos and talk about it a little bit. But really what they don't understand, like I kind of am, giving them routine without them understanding it yet. I'm kind of just throwing it in their head. So we'll have, like, what I'll do is we'll have a daily, like a weekly challenge. Like, so we'll have 12, and it goes about 12 weeks, and it's just one thing. So first week when they're here, first week that they're doing, the challenge is to make their bed.
Okay.
Just make their bed.
Yeah.
And then, we'll progress from there to, hey, every time someone asks you how you're doing today, you're going to tell me you're outstanding. I was like, yeah, no other choice.
Not just okay.
Yep, not just okay, which I think we say a ton, or I say it a ton. But then I'll even negative teach them too. There'll be some weeks like, hey, for this week, when anyone asks how you're doing, I want you to tell me you're doing terrible. Okay, and tell me how your mindset is when you're going out to practice. Tell me how that's affecting you. And so I'll try and get them the other way so they can start to see the difference between the two and what's going on. I try and subconsciously set that up for them in routine, because I'll never forget this. When I was a young coach, and I first started this thing and going through it and practice. I mean, practice was practice. We regimented routine. This is what we did. And we did it. And guys are like, this is boring.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, yeah, I get it. It's boring, but it's your foundation. I was like, that's what you don't understand. It's your foundation. You can't come out here and just try and hit bomb rounds today and try and just make diving plays all over the field. I was like, no, you got to have your foundation. You got to have your routine. You got to have structure, because that's what prepares you, for school, or prepares you for practice, what prepares you for games, and what's going to prepare you for life in general. So their routines, typically, it's very rare. We have a handful that they're very, very good. But typically their routines are show up to the field and do whatever the coach tells me to do. But they don't have an understanding of what do I need to do to get myself ready.
Yeah. And what do I need to go work on some soft toss, some tee work, or whatever that, hitters I think can do a lot more extra work than maybe pitchers, because pitchers are always involved with throwing. But also maybe they can do extra exercises like that. But now that's interesting. When people find, or players find that, God, this is boring, from my understanding and studies that I've done, that's a big part of lack of focus and really paying attention to what you're doing. If you start getting bored, it's you've lost focus on what you're just going through the motions. So you have to have something that gets you back into that mindset of, okay, focus for the next just 5 minutes on what I'm paying attention to, on what I'm doing, and you'll come out like, oh wow, like 5 minutes isn't very long.
Right.
So it's interesting how all this stuff works. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think some of that is you're starting to see that's from these club balls and tournaments and stuff like that. Hey, I'm going to go play 4 games, 5 games on the weekend, show up 45 minutes before the game, stretch, throw a little bit. Let's get it on.
Yeah.
So there's not that, and as you know, I mean, you get to pro ball. I mean, you got a 7 o'clock game. There's days in there you're going to be in there at noon, because you got to go, and you might be a little bit sore, and you got to go get treatment. You got to stretch stuff out. You got to get warm. You got to do these things, all to get ready to go out for maybe you have a little bit of early work, and then you got BP, then you got a break, and then the game time. And it's like there's a lot that goes into it. And it's like, and I think if you put guys in that setting, like professional baseball, you want to get ready for this, that's boring. If you really want to break it down, that's a really long, extreme routine.
Yeah.
So they don't understand that yet, and that's what we're trying to get them to.
Absolutely. So you go on and then you spend a few years in Arizona, and then you get drafted. So tell us about your draft experience and what your pro ball experience was like.
So yeah, so I'll kind of tell you both experiences. So,
Mhm.
um, so my junior year, I blow my elbow and I get drafted by the Red Sox. And for the people that know me best, Red Sox, I'm a huge Red Sox homer. Love the Red Sox, which is crazy because my dad grew up in New York and loved the Yankees, so just something to cheer against them about, I guess.
Right.
Um, but get drafted by the Red Sox. I'm even though I'm hurt, I would love to sign with them. This is who I want to be with, and they don't call me until I think it was like 25 days had passed and the draft was already over. And
Wow.
I'll never forget, they called me and I'm talking to them and they're just like, hey, like, um, Rob, we drafted you. I was like, yeah, I know. Um, like about
A
3
month
weeks
ago.
ago. Yeah. Um, and and he's like, what's it going to take for you to sign? And I said, well, honestly, I'm injured right now. It's probably going to take quite a bit. Back then, quite a bit was 100,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now it's like you'd sign that in the 30th round. Um, but hey, just because I want some security, I don't want to get in there and you guys tell me I'm not healthy and you ship me back out. And he's like, all right, well, we'll send you a draft consent card, see if we can pick you up next season. So I was like, all right.
So that was a pretty short conversation.
Yeah. So I was like, good talk. And then, fast forward the next year, I go back for my senior year at U of A, blow my elbow out again, done, have surgery. And so I come back for my 5th year, and there was a weird rule back then. I don't even know if it's still in existence, but as a 5th year senior, if you weren't drafted your 4th year, you could sign before the draft. So, so I remember I found out about that rule. So told every scout I'm done playing baseball, so I didn't get drafted, which is funny to sound like I'm saying that. And then, so fast forward, my 5th year, it goes okay, at best. And, I was able to negotiate with any team I wanted with before the draft and sign with them. So I ended up talking with 6 different teams. It really came down to the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks at the time on who I was going to sign with. And I had some people in my ear because I came back, and I was throwing harder than I had before, and some people were telling me wait for the draft, and I was like I just at this point I was like I got no leverage. Let me just pick maybe the best fit now at this point. So chose the Diamondbacks. And it was great. I mean, I was in Tucson. Spring training was in Tucson. Didn't really have to pack up my stuff and move. Signed with them. Headed over there. Was there in extended spring, still before the draft. So I was ready to go. Was there for a couple of weeks and then got sent out to the California League, which was a little bit of an eye-opening experience. I was in high desert where I think is probably a better place to hit than Coors Field.
Okay.
The wind blows out at about 30 miles an hour every day and never changes. It never blows in, always blows out. But it was definitely a learning experience for me. I went there and I struggled. And then, I got sent down at that point in time to go to Missoula, Montana in the short season A, and really kind of started to find my groove and threw the ball really well up there. And then I went to Instructs, which I was really excited about. I finally felt like I was really getting healthy, getting my feet underneath me. Went to Instructs and threw the ball great, threw outstanding. Best I'd probably thrown in a couple of years. To where it's really going to jumpstart me to the next year going into spring training that I was going to be with the AA club in spring training. So, but the big thing they don't tell you is that when you have your off season, and they're telling me I'm coming off surgery, don't throw, do these things. And probably for me, I still needed to throw. I needed to start my throwing program earlier. Went to spring training, struggled. What wasn't great. I wasn't prepared. That was completely on me. I own that. And I go back to A-ball, and I'm having some good moments and bad moments, kind of, up and down, just up and down. And then I get sent back. They send me back down to short season, so I could be a starter and get me out of the bullpen. And again, I throw the ball really well. About the last month of the season, throwing it as well as I did in Instructs, and it was great. And then I came back for that. My 3rd year. Now at this point in time, it's kind of make or break it. I'm 25 years old. I've got to start to kind of fast forward a little bit here, and went out threw the ball well early, didn't throw the ball well late, got released. And again, it's on me. I don't think my routine was great. I think I was one of those guys that if you told me to do something, I do it. I wanted to try it. I want to do these things, but I never had my foundation. What I could always lean back on to get me back on track. And so it kind of threw me off, and I struggled. And it really wasn't until I went to independent ball, because I got done there. Next year I went to go to independent ball, and I thought it was amazing for me. It ends up being probably best thing for me ever as a coach, going into independent ball, because there's no organizational policies, there's no rules about that. I mean, it's, hey, you want to pitch and stay here and keep a job, figure it out, do it on your own. Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay, great. And the guys I played with were awesome. And I really had a great experience, there. And at the end of the day, my last start ever was in Wisconsin. And I'll never forget, I think it was like the 5th or 6th inning. The mound was really bad, no clay, no nothing. And I remember I threw a pitch and I felt my knee pop. I already had some knee issues, and I was like, okay, felt my knee pop, and I was like, that didn't feel good. That might be a game changer here.
Something's wrong.
Yeah. So I threw a couple more pitches, felt okay, and I was like, okay, so if I tore something, it's not completely torn. So I knew, as weird as it sounds, like, in order for me to get surgery, I better blow this thing all the way out if I'm going to do this thing. So actually finished the game, pitch was fine. Actually couldn't even walk up the bus at the end. I actually needed help to get up onto the bus. And at the end of the day, I was, going to be 26 years old. And I was like, I got a college degree, which I'm super thankful for. I think I'm done. I think this is going to be it. And that was kind of my waking moment. But I think I learned so many lessons going to independent ball, and learning how to be myself, I think, was the biggest thing. And I wasn't stuck in and I'm not saying this is bad, but I wasn't stuck in a system. It was, you got to figure it out on your own if you want to do this thing. And I think I think that was one of the best things that ever happened for me, because I did it on my own. And I wasn't no one forced me to do anything. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to go out and win. I still wanted to go out and be competitive. I still wanted someone to want me after this thing. But I had to do it for myself. And I think that was a great learning experience for myself.
Yeah, I think that's very key when it gets into those, you've been playing for a few years. And I think that's a point that should be made at any point. It should always be about, it's your career. You do get caught up in systems on, pitchers. I think talking to players and managers that have, say, managed like in the 90s or the 2000s, now they're 20, 30 years older. They're like, yeah, we've seen things that have changed, in regards to, we might have some type of approach to pitching, but also we got to let guys be themselves, and we can teach them, maybe give them a tweak here or there. Maybe some need major overhauls in the delivery, or something like that, because their results are not great anyway. But at the end of the day, it is your career, and sometimes you don't feel comfortable doing something different. And coaches used to take that like, well, he's not coachable. He's not going to listen. I think they're a little bit more open to that now, where a coach can actually, if I was a coach and I told you something, you could take that in, see if it works, see if it doesn't. If it doesn't, then you just throw it out the window, whereas back in the day, they would say, you either do it my way or you're out of here. We used to see that a lot. So that's cool that I played independent ball one year too. And that was one of the funnest experiences that I've ever had. You just kind of finally relax a little bit. You just go out and do it. You enjoy your coaches and your players and the fans. You're a little more interactive. It's just more laid back, and it's something interesting about that, isn't there?
There is, and I think some of it is like, there's not a level above you. You're not trying to get to the next level. You're not trying to take someone else. It's like, I'm just here to play. I'm here to play. And I think it depends on how you look at your career. I mean, I will say, when I was there and I saw some of the younger guys that were like fresh out of college and they didn't get a chance to go into an organization and got there, they were a little bit lost. I mean, they were,
Yeah.
it was definitely different. I think you saw the guys that came back from organizations that were like, okay, I have a little bit different focus than my guy that's just coming out of, college right now. But I agree. I think it was just a great experience. Our coaches were laid back. They would give you some suggestions. And I think that's where the game of baseball has really changed. And I agree with you 100%. Like back in the day, it was like, you had your bonus babies. Like don't talk to them. We'll do what we need to do with them. And some of the other guys, it was like, I remember when I was with the Diamondbacks, we fell in love with Byung-Hyun Kim. And then all of a sudden it was me, Javi Lopez, and another guy. We're all left-handed. We all became sidearmers for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it was great for Javi. It worked out wonders for him. Had a long career in the big leagues. It was awesome. Great athlete. I started to do it. I was like,
this ain't gonna work.
I'm like, this isn't gonna be good, man. Like, I probably need to figure something out.
Right.
But those things happen. And nowadays with some of the adjustments, because back then it was all done by your eye, whatever you felt like, and now, you have your analytics and you have, your TrackMan systems and, your Rapsodos and Blast and all these things where technically you can really key on what is actually wrong, which I think is great.
Yeah. It's, I had Brett Harrison on here with PBR, and he was talking about Rapsodo and TrackMan and Blast, and it's just interesting how you can actually get feedback right away now, which I think as a player can be really good, but then you can also, kind of be paralyzed as well by the information if you overdo it. So that you got to kind of find, again, that's probably an individual thing. Some guys can really take all that information in and apply it to the actual game, and then some will be like, well, that's just too much information. Like I want to focus on getting this guy out or executing this pitch, as an example.
Yeah, and we're pretty fortunate. We do have a Rapsodo, and we have some Blast units and things like that. And the good thing of this pandemic is obviously there's been a lot of pro guys that are out here. They're trying to do live ABs and stuff like that. And I've got a handful of guys that are in pro ball that are still here. But I was able to take my Rapsodo out with them almost every day and really start to discuss things with them and really dive into Rapsodo quite a bit with them on the pitching side and understanding that. So it was really great for me to be able to coach it better.
Right.
As opposed to like, hey, like here's your numbers compared to major leaguers. And it's like, no, it's not what we're here to do. It's, we're just here to kind of tighten some things up, and figure out, hey, your fastball, like, you got a ton of gyro spin on your four-seam fastball. That shouldn't be happening. So there's a flaw in your delivery. We got to get you on time.
Yeah.
So, those things have been great for me to see and use. And I try to use some old school with new school type mentality when it comes to those things. But I absolutely agree. I have some guys that I won't show them the information or all of it because they're going to go down the rabbit hole big time.
Yeah.
And every pitch is, they live and die on every pitch. And why is this wrong? And why is that? And I try to explain to them, it's like, hey, like, the best athletes in the world, the best athletes on the mound in the world only repeat their delivery about 40% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Not every pitch is going to be identical.
Yeah. Like you got to be willing to be flexible, right? And kind of, I guess, malleable, whatever that word is, but being able to, like, if you're expecting 90 to 100%, you're going to repeat your delivery as a pitcher every time, or take that exact perfect swing as a hitter. Like this game is just not, it's not the game for that,
No.
It's just not going to happen.
No, it's been said since the 1800s, the game's built on failure. And it's just, how are you going to react and adapt to failure?
Yeah.
And if guys would take it in better, like it's something I didn't learn to take in failure until I was probably, I don't know, mid-20s almost, 22 to 25-ish, understanding failure. And that it taught me so much more than actually my successes. I learned way more from my mistakes than any of my successes, for sure. My failures just pointed out a flaw that I had. It's like, okay, now I need to work on this.
And I think that's why failure is actually a good thing, right? We really only learn through failure. When things are going great and you're doing awesome, you're like, yeah, and maybe your confidence is at a certain level. But when you fail and then you start to kind of put pieces together on, okay, I need to work in this certain area and start to focus on that part of the game. And then you start to maybe raise that baseline, you start raising that failure up to kind of catch up. It's interesting how your game starts to improve. And obviously along that comes in a way of confidence comes with that, of you're getting those results that you've always wanted, right? But now you're starting to back it up with, I guess, more consistency.
Right. Right. And I think, with this game, and obviously the day and age we're in with, kids are following their numbers, they see their batting average and it's in front of them all the time. And it's like, how do I sustain this? How do I do this? And I'll never forget, I had a guy, really good player for us. But he had a game, he was 3 for 4 with, it was like a bomb, 2 doubles, and a guy robbed a homer on him. And I was like, hey, good job today. And he's like, oh man, he's like, but how do how do how do I sustain this? How do I do this tomorrow? I was like, just keep swinging at strikes.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, I was like, it's simple as that. Like, don't. It's nothing. I was like, you had a great game. I was
Yeah.
like, swing strikes, put the ball in the barrel. That's all. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
That's all you literally can do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and guys, we all know guys like that.
Yeah. It's those high, you could say those high expectations, that you place upon yourself, and then how am I supposed to go 5 for 5 again today? I did that tomorrow. I'm like, highly more than likely you're not going to go 5 for 5 today. You might go 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts. So that's just that's what's crazy about this game and this sport. And well, this has been great, Rob. This is exactly what I was looking forward to with you, and having the experience of opponents as we battled out in high school.
Right.
Had an interesting career in college, a lot of adversity with injuries, and you've transitioned that into coaching. Any, I guess, last words, any nuggets of wisdom you have for us, for any high school, college, it's really anybody.
I think one thing that I want to point out to high school athletes for sure. I mean, obviously, one, dive into the mental game, because it's the part of the game that's worked on the least, and it's the part of the game that's going to help you the most, and it's going to keep you sane. And I think on the recruiting perspective and that, because I think it's huge in high school right now, because you're starting to see early sport specialization in baseball, which I'm not a fan of. Because parents and kids, they're concerned they need to start being recruited by colleges in 8th grade, 9th grade, and be committed by 8th, 9th, and 10th grade. And that when they're after their sophomore year and they're not committed to a major four-year university, that they're going to settle on something, or their career is done, or things like that. And that's one option why junior college is great. But I think what kids need to understand, and parents need to understand, is don't just specialize in them, in one sport, especially when they're 12, 13, 14 years old. Let them play other sports. Let them do some things. Let them learn to become athletic and play other things and do certain things. And, and don't just inundate them like, hey, we're getting you, we're sending you to drive line. We're sending you to the pitching ranch. We're sending you this because, we need you to, be 90 by the time you're 15 years old, so you can get, your college paid for. People need to slow down on this a little bit. And I think colleges need to slow down on it a little bit too. I would love for them, if they're going to offer an 8th grader, that they got to sign a letter of intent right down the spot. And just so for parents and kids out there, hey, slow down. If you're good enough, they're going to find you. There's going to be opportunities for you down the road, and go find the right fit for you. Find the right fit for you. Don't chase the name. The name might not be the right fit. Find the right fit for you, even if it is at a junior college for a year or two, and you end up at a major university. Even if it's a great Division II, Division III program, NAI program, even if it's any of those things, if it's the right fit and gives you the opportunity to get your education paid for, maybe a potential opportunity to get into professional baseball if you're good enough, things like that. Find yourself the fit and really enjoy what you're doing. Enjoy playing high school baseball. Enjoy being out there with your friends and competing, and do those things. Don't go out there to play for a scholarship. It's just, you're going to go crazy. And if you are just going out there to try and play for a scholarship, you really need to get into the mental side of athletics.
Love it, man. That's awesome stuff. Well, dude, I know you got to get back to work. You got some AD work to do. Got to get kids back in online class. But I really appreciate your time. This has been outstanding. And I thank you for coming on board. It's been great.
Yeah, Chad, I really appreciate it. This is awesome. This is a great, separator for me, because right now I can't really do much on the field. So this is awesome. I really appreciate the time. Really cherish our friendship over the last 20 some odd years. And just look forward to doing this more and seeing you around more often. And for you now, coaching sports psychology coach at Northern Colorado with one of my former players, Josh Glenn. So
there you go. There you go. Awesome, man. Well, thanks for coming on board.
Absolutely.